Welcome to Meet the Press Now. I'm Kristen Welker. Vice President Harris today made her first major policy-focused speech as a presidential candidate, speaking in battleground North Carolina just days before the Democratic National Convention gets underway. Referencing her own middle-class upbringing, Harris laid out her broad economic plan as she seeks to define herself and her candidacy, tackling one of her biggest vulnerabilities, the economy. Voters say it's their most important issue heading into November, and it's one where President Biden was getting low marks. Harris's economic agenda includes proposals to give down payment assistance to first-time homebuyers, a federal ban on price gouging in the food industry, and tax cuts for families with young children. She touted those plans today while attacking former President Trump for his economic proposals.
When I am elected president, I will make it a top priority to bring down costs and increase economic security for all Americans. As president, I will take on the high costs that matter most to most Americans, like the cost of food. Now compare what Donald Trump plans to do. He wants to impose what is, in effect, a national sales tax on everyday products and basic necessities that we import from other countries. That will devastate Americans. It will mean higher prices on just about every one of your daily needs. At this moment, when everyday prices are too high, he will make them even higher.
But despite the polling bump Harris has seen since becoming the top of the ticket, she still trails former President Trump when it comes to the economy. In the latest poll from CNBC, 40% of voters say they would be better off financially under Trump, while only 21% say the same of Harris. And on broader questions of who's better on the economy, Trump holds a 6-point advantage nationally and a 5-point advantage in 7 key battleground states. The Harris economic plan rollout comes a day after former President Trump slammed Harris and the Biden administration for the Inflation Reduction Act, standing in front of a table full of props meant to draw attention to inflation and high food costs.
Their Inflation Reduction Act, by the way, was a disaster. It's what caused the inflation. Their Inflation Reduction Act was a con job. Here is the record of economic calamity that Kamala is desperate for voters to ignore. She cast the tie-breaking votes that caused record inflation, no tax on tips. All of a sudden, out of the blue, she comes out. That was months ago I said that.
And of course, a number of factors caused inflation, according to economists. But the former president also veered into other topics, including defending his right to make personal attacks on the vice president. Even his allies have urged him to stay on message.
I think I'm entitled to personal attacks. I don't have a lot of respect for her. I don't have a lot of respect for her intelligence. And I think she'll be a terrible president. And I think it's very important that we win. And whether the personal attacks are good, bad, I mean, she certainly attacks me personally. She actually called me weird. He's weird. She's weird in her policy. Who wouldn't want to have strong borders? Who doesn't want to have lower taxes?
Joining me now from Raleigh, North Carolina is NBC's Yamiche Alcindor. And also with me is Brian Cheung to break down the impact of some of these policies that Kamala Harris talked about today. Dasha Burns also has the view from Trump world. Yamiche, I have to start with you. So today the vice president rolled out her economic plan. It comes after she and President Biden were out talking health care costs yesterday. Obviously, a clear focus on the economy. How much is the Harris campaign actually trying to distance itself from any negative perceptions of the Biden administration?
Well, it's a key question, Kristen, and I know there's going to be some background noise behind me because I'm here at Wake Tech. It's the largest community college in North Carolina. She was just here, but now they're packing up because she's left and is on her way back to D.C. But what you heard from the vice president here, someone who's trying to lean into the idea that she wants to build, not really distance herself from the Biden administration, of course, the Biden-Harris administration's policies. So a number of the things that she's proposing, policy stances that she's getting into detail on, are building on some of the things that President Biden has been doing, including things like capping insulin at $35 for out-of-pocket expenses, as well as even also cutting middle-class tax, putting tax cuts for middle-class families. Also providing sort of help to renters and first-time home buyers. So a lot of the things that she was talking about are things that President Biden has wanted to champion. But it's interesting because this policy speech was also a personal speech. She, of course, laid out those details that I just shared, but she also talked about her upbringing. She said her mom saved for more than a decade to buy her first home. And she said, I remember as a teenager seeing the excitement in my mother's eyes, and I understood the importance and power of homeownership. She also talked about working at McDonald's as a young woman and saying that she was sort of working at the fast food chain to earn extra money, but she saw other people who were supporting their whole families on that McDonald's salary, that McDonald's fund. So she was really talking about the fact that she wants to make the middle class a center of her campaign. She said building the middle class will be really a principle that she will try to build her presidency on if she is elected. And she also talked about creating what she called a, quote, opportunity economy, really saying that every American should have access to living wages and no child should grow up in poverty. So a lot of details, but also some personal real reflections on that part. And of course, as you said, she also attacked former President Trump, saying that he's looking out for the rich while she's looking out for the middle class, Kristen.
Yeah, and the economy undoubtedly where this battle will be fought. Yamiche, let me ask you about the backdrop, the fact that she was there in North Carolina. Trump was there earlier this week. This is a state that was initially out of reach. At least that's how Democrats viewed it when President Biden was at the top of the ticket. Now it looks a whole lot more competitive. What are you hearing about the strategy to potentially try to win this state?
Well, Harris allies and campaign officials absolutely feel bullish about North Carolina, as they do about other states like Georgia. They're really trying to pour as many resources as they can into this state. She's really going to try to lean in on Southern black voters in this state, but also really talking about the middle class and trying to build on this economic message, trying to peel away some voters who maybe liked former President Trump on the economy, but maybe don't like the rhetoric and the personal attacks that he's now been continuing to make on her. So she's really trying, I think, to appeal to the broader sort of independent voters here in this state, along with, of course, the base voters. They're going to try as best they can to get people motivated to turn out. And, of course, the energy that we've been seeing pulsing through the Democratic Party for the last few weeks, I also saw that here. People were clapping. She was on the rope line, hugging and taking selfies for a long time here. So people definitely much excited to see her here in North Carolina.
Well, Yamiche Alcindor there to cover all of it on the road with Vice President Kamala Harris. Yamiche, thank you so much. Let me turn now to Brian Cheung. Brian, we, of course, as Yamiche just laid out, heard the vice president today pitch a number of policies on everything from housing to lowering taxes, tax credits for families who have children, and then trying to ban price gouging on groceries. What is the reality check here? How much of this is something that she can actually carry out within her first several days of office?
Yeah, well, I mean, she's going to need help from Congress to do a lot of these things, namely with those child tax credits and also with the funding to try to build some of those homes. Now, I actually want to zone in on the housing bit because, again, from a zoomed out perspective, really what this is all about is overall inflation. And we got an inflation report earlier this week that showed that 90% of the inflation that we saw in the month of July was attributed to housing costs. So this is really the biggest piece of the puzzle here in trying to get inflation down. So she wants to, well, give that $25,000 to first-time home buyers to make it easier to cover that down payment. That's good on the demand side of things. But guess what? It's not really going to do you any good if you have that $25,000 incentive if there aren't any homes in your neighborhood to buy up. That's why she's focusing on the supply side of things by trying to build up 3 million homes over the course of this plan if she is elected. And she's going to do that by doing a $40 billion innovation fund to try to spur creative ways to build houses, in addition to offer tax incentives to home buyers that are going to prioritize starter homes for first-time buyers. Now, this is going to be such an important part of the equation here, Kristen, because, again, you can only make home prices go down if you can make the supply and demand equation of both sides work out. All right, great if you give that $25,000 incentive. It's going to take years to build those homes and get the supply up there. Even with 3 million homes, there are some estimates out there, Kristen, that the shortfall in this country of how many homes we need to get back to equilibrium, somewhere between 4 to 7 million. So there's going to be a lot of open questions there.
And let me drill down with you, if I can, Brian, on the inflation numbers. Obviously, they hit hit a 3-year low. As you're talking about, what is the significance of that, and what's the reality check in turn? I mean, obviously prices are still high at the grocery store, and that's part of the issue. And we're looking at a potential interest rate cut by the Fed next time it meets.
Yeah, well, I mean, the language around this is a little bit confusing because you hear inflation is down. Yes, the rate of inflation is down. It was somewhere around 9% in the summer of 2022. It's come down to 2.9% as of the last reading that we got earlier this week, which covers the month of July. But it's still a positive number. We're talking about plus 2.9%, which means that prices are still going up. They're just going up at a slower rate than they were compared to this time last year, compared to especially the year prior. So the real big story here is that inflation is getting a little bit closer to what economists say is a healthy level, which is 2%. We're still above that, but that might be the green light for the Federal Reserve, which over on their side of things, they've been keeping those interest rates high. That's the reason why your mortgage rates and your credit card rates are so high. Well, now we're hearing from the Fed that, okay, well, with inflation getting a little bit closer to their 2% target, maybe they can cut interest rates, but they don't have their next meeting until September 18th. So for those that are kind of holding their breath, hoping they can see cheaper borrowing costs, that might not happen until next month, Kristen.
Well, it's an issue that voters are tracking so closely, the top issue still for so many voters all across this country. Brian Cheung, thank you so much for breaking down the complicated details for us. Really appreciate it. Let me turn now to Dasha Burns. She's covering all things Trump campaign. So, Dasha, look, if you look at the polling, most of the polls show that former President Trump still has an advantage on the issue of the economy. Does the campaign feel as though he's doing a good enough job of staying on message? He had that big event yesterday that was centered around the economy. He did start off on the economy, but he quickly veered into personal attacks against Vice President Harris.
Well, look, it's a good question. And, you know, his allies have been on the airwaves and behind the scenes trying to convince him to focus on the issues, focus on the policy, and really contrast what he did in his administration versus this administration to try to tie Harris to President Biden. Because Harris has started to make up the gap on the economic polling a little bit, Kristen. But for Biden, that gap was wider. And so the goal for the folks in Trump's orbit is tie the two of them together. And that will make it an easier argument for the former president. But even standing in front of those boxes of groceries yesterday, Kristen, he had a hard time driving that message and sticking to that message. He was asked about the advice to go policy over personal attacks. And he said to reporters, I feel like I'm entitled to those personal attacks. He feels like he has to do this his way. And you know as well as I do, when you talk to people in his orbit, to his advisors, they know they can't control him. They can show him the data, they can show him the advice, but Trump is going to be Trump, and that's in part the tough balance that his team has to walk. They say Trump is our secret sauce, an advisor told me. And that means who he is the reason that he's become this notorious, unique figure in politics, but it comes with that double-edged sword of he'll go on the attack in ways that might turn off some voters, Kristen.
Yeah, you know, we just are getting this new reporting as we are all preparing to cover the DNC next week. The Trump campaign saying he's going to be out in battleground states. Yeah. He's going to be counter-programming that event. What do you know about what we can anticipate seeing next week? Any sense that he'll be staying on message then?
You know, I don't think anyone has an answer to that except maybe former President Trump himself. And even then, he sometimes doesn't know exactly what he's going to do until he gets up there behind the podium, Kristen. But look, I think, you know, he's received some of the criticism from the Harris campaign of not being out on the trail enough. Vance has been doing a lot of the stumping recently. He did have an event in Asheville, North Carolina this week and will be in Pennsylvania this weekend. But next week, he is planning to counter program. He will be in those battleground states. And you saw this a little bit from him in the primary, Kristen, where he was getting criticized for not spending enough time in Iowa and some of those early primary states. But then in that last few moments, those last few weeks where voters are really, really paying attention, it was nose to the grindstone. So it's possible and likely from what I'm hearing behind the scenes that it's going to be a similar strategy here where post-Labor Day, when people are fully locked in, that's when you're going to really see him deploy. And next week, we will be seeing that counter-programming.
All right. Dasha Burns, thank you as always for your fantastic reporting. Really appreciate it. Good to see you.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.